Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Happy New Year to you and welcome to welcome to January. We seem to have made it there relatively unscathed. Mocks all done and dusted. Please say hello in the comments and I will greet you and welcome you. So this is the plan today. We're doing threats to computer networks. Let's get rid of my echo there. That should do that. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. So threats, that is the plan for today. We're going to have a look at threats to computer networks. There's quite a lot to cover, so I'm not going to bother with the usual sort of quizzing beforehand. I'm simply going to get on and actually sort of go through this as best I can. And of course, I will finish on time. That's the one guarantee. So please say, Aditya, hello, dear man. How are you? Lovely to have you here. Hash Brown, how are you? Good to see you. Fabulous. That's who we've got in so far. Who else have we got here? 6 waiting. So we've got quite a few coming in, hopefully. All right, so this is where we are. We're at 1.4 in the grand scheme of things. We've got 2 more to do on paper 1, and then we're into paper 2. Hi, Bogdan. How you doing? Thanks for making it. Hi, Flynn. How are you? Good to see you. Hi, Sergen. Looks like Liverpool you've got there. Must be you. Hope all is going well. All right, so that's where we are, network security. Again, we've got Emad. Hi, Emad. How you doing? Hope all is well. Got to say, it was quite an early start today. Takes a bit of getting used to that. So I'm sure we'll soon get back into the swing of it. Right, so this is the plan for today. We've got different network threats, different threats to any network, and we're going to look at these at this selection of threats today, and pretty much to understand how they work. There's quite a lot to this, but the good thing is you can really learn this off by heart, and you can get high marks in this in the exam. So we're going to focus on the different threats posed to networks and to understand how the attack is used and what it's for. So in that sense, we're looking at sometimes the motivation of the hacker, of the person who's carrying out the attack, or of the criminal who's carrying it out. So I'm going to jump straight in because I fear that if I do any quizzing beforehand, I'm never going to get through this. So I wanted to very briefly state the absolute obvious, which is why system security is important. It's important because it keeps data and programs secure. And sometimes they ask that as a 1 marker at the start of it. So why is system security important? It also maintains the health of computers. If you think about viruses slowing computers down, that's why we talk about computers' health. If a computer's running slowly, then it's not going to be as efficient, and you will lose. You could lose customers, you could lose documents, you could lose data. Okay, compromised networks damage businesses because email is the primary way that people communicate, and people need to be able to search the internet. And of course, e-commerce, it is actually only I say, worth 1/5 of all global retail, but that's actually quite a lot. If I get my head out of the way, you can see retail there. So e-commerce is a big deal. So if someone takes down a competitor's website, it can have a massive impact on their sales. Now, this horrendous looking mind map in front of you, which I'll give you a copy of, this lists all of the different threats that I'm going to run through today. But I thought it might be quite nice to have this overview so it's all in one place. So on the right hand side there, all the reds, those are the different types of malware: worms, viruses, Trojans, Adware, and ransomware. Trojan is actually a delivery method rather than a threat type, but I'll get over that. I'll get to that in a second. You've got brute force attacks. That's trying to guess someone's password at the bottom there. Top left, data interception. So that's packet sniffing. And then you've got DDoS attacks, knocking over a database using zombies. It's very horror filmy, that one. We'll get to that one shortly. Social engineering, which is tricking people. And then lastly, SQL injections, which is getting into a database by adding some malicious code to a password. So let's work from the general to the precise, shall we? Or from the general to the particular. Cybersecurity. Cybersecurity are the methods and the technologies that can protect networks and computers. And of course, the word nodes, don't forget, is also used interchangeably, NODES. And it's to protect them from attack, damage, or unauthorized access. That phrase, unauthorized access. Hello, Swiftblade. How are you, dear boy? Thanks for coming. Good to see you. It's a bit cold in my office, I must say. So that unauthorized access, yes, it's a good buzz phrase to get in there. To preventing unauthorized access. It's what they want to see in the mark scheme. So when we talk about cybersecurity threats, we're looking at a malicious attempt, and malicious means unpleasant, a malicious attempt to damage or disrupt a computer network or a system or a series of nodes. And we're going to look at the ways in which these threats can be carried out. So first of all, malware. Malware, don't say viruses, because virus is a type of malware. Mal, if you do French, means bad, so badware. And that's where it comes. That's where it comes from. Like so much of our English vocabulary comes from French. So malware, it is any software which can harm a computer or a user. And those are two examples there, but don't worry about that because I'm going to go into more detail about those around about now. So let's start with worms. Now, worms are a type of malware. Worms, they are self-replicating, and pretty much that is how they cause their damage, is that they replicate, they copy themselves. They don't require a host program. What does that mean? So if you think about viruses, a lot of viruses are spread using an email client like Outlook. And when you open your email and click on a link, it then looks in the address book and it sends a copy of that virus to other people. It sends that link to other people who open it, and that's the way it spreads. Whereas worms, they don't need to sit inside a program. They can just operate in a computer. And they work by sending copies of itself to other systems and trying to get to as many different systems as it possibly can. Man like Paul, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So that's what worms do. Worms are pretty clever. I strongly recommend you look at my YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and have a look at I've got 3 videos on system threats there. You can ignore the first one because that's quite a general one, doesn't tell you a huge amount. But the second and the third, the second one is what I'm talking about today, and the third one is what I'm talking about next week. So one's about the threats, and the other one is about how you mitigate or prevent the threats, how you stop the damage. Those two really, really, really useful for you to listen to those and take some notes. It took me absolutely hours to make them, so have a look through those because there's a lot of information in there, everything you need for this particular part of the course. So worms work by consuming bandwidth. Now, have you ever had that experience when your computer is almost full? You've got so much data on it that you've got no space left, and as your computer gets full, it becomes slower and slower and slower. And so worms do that by filling up all of the available memory with these useless programs because they just keep making copies of themselves, and it really slows things down. Now, worms can be used as part of a DDoS attack, which is a distributed denial of service attack. We'll get to that shortly, okay? So worms, key thing is self-replicating. They don't require a host program, and they cause damage, and they slow systems down. Now let's look at viruses. Viruses replicate, same as worms, and they embed in a host program. They do need a host program, like an email client or any program, but they sit inside a program. So when you download something that purports to be free off the internet, like a program that you can use to, I don't know, to download YouTube videos or to change a PDF to a Word document or vice versa, they would put the malware or the virus inside that program. So when you use the program, when you click on one of the buttons in the program, it'll make that code execute. Okay, so it executes when the host program is executed. It corrupts data and it deletes files. This corrupting data and deleting files, that is a possible answer for you to use throughout quite a lot of this part of the course, because that's what malware does. Corrupts data, deletes files. Unauthorized access. These buzzwords in the mark schemes, they keep appearing over and over again. Okay, we've done worms, we've done viruses. Let's look at adware now. You know adware, because if you're looking at websites that you shouldn't be looking at, like for example, trying to watch a football match for free, and you get, not that I would know clearly, and you get bombarded with lots of adware. The way that adware, and you get bombarded with adverts, sorry, but the way that adware works is that it inspects your browser history, Sharjeev, hello dear man, how are you? Thanks for coming, good to see you. The way that Adware works is that it targets your browser history, and it looks at your browser history, and then it tries to send you adverts that are linked to your browser history. It tends to be more irritating than dangerous. Some adware can be dangerous, but it does slow your computer down, or it could crash it. And we'll come to a different type of ware in a second, which is more dangerous. But adware tends to be irritating. It's designed to sell you stuff, to bombard you with adverts that you just don't want. All right, we are moving nice and quickly now. Ransomware. So this is the one that's often in the news, and it's a very clever piece of code that is written and released. And once the code gets into your computer via any method, it then has the capacity to lock, to encrypt your files. We had a school recently, not that far from us actually, in southeast England, who had a ransomware attack, and they locked all the student files. So they literally didn't know which students were there. They had all the details of the students' exams, their assessments, all the details of anything from behaviour to addresses. They knew nothing. So they had to get the parents to come in and give them all the information again, because they were asking for hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's a ransom. We've had American police who have want to cry. That is one of the big ones, Aditya. I mean, there've been some really, it's actually worth, I'm not trying to sell my own video here, but I actually was quite astonished doing a bit of research on some of the worms that have come out recently. And they can cause catastrophic damage, as in stop planes from taking off. They can bankrupt markets. They are incredibly powerful. And they're a bit hit and miss. When a hacker releases one, they often do it just for the hell of it, or sometimes to make money. But sometimes these things take off, and they can infect millions of nodes within seconds. It's quite extraordinary how quickly they spread. So that's ransomware. Demands that payment is given to then unlock or decrypt the files. Malicious code, same thing, okay? Designed to damage or corrupt data or files. Okay, Trojan horse. Now, Trojan horse, you know the story, I'm sure you've heard it, about Troy and how they couldn't manage to get into the city because the walls were fortified. So the attacking army put a wooden horse outside the walls, and then that evening they opened the doors and pulled the horse in, thinking it had been left as a sort of a present by the attacking army, shut the gates, and then that night there were soldiers who were hiding inside the horse, and then they basically got out the horse, opened the gates, and everyone got killed. No happy ending to that story. But that's where the idea of a Trojan horse comes in, is that it's something that's pretending to be something else. That's the worst retelling of a myth you could ever imagine. The story's better than that. But anyway, appears benevolent. It appears to be nice, but it's not. It's a standalone program, so it's something that sits by itself. It is an application, and it will cause issues when it's executed. Okay, so that is your Trojan horse. But it's more a delivery method than anything in its own right. It's where, in that standalone program, there will be some malicious code that is put that it cause a specific damage. All right, Trojan horse done. DDoS. DDoS is more complicated. So get yourselves comfortable, and I'll give you a 2-minute rundown of DDoS. So here's the story. Let's say, for example, a hacker wants to attack Nike's servers, and they want to steal data about Nike's customers, because Nike will have millions of customers around the world. And as we know, having lots of data is incredibly useful because you can sell it to people, right? And they're going to have data they're going to have people's names, addresses, they're going to have their credit card details, hopefully encrypted, but they're going to have lots of sales information. Nike don't want to give this away. A DDoS attack works like this. The hacker will create a piece of code. He will then infect hundreds or thousands or even hundreds of thousands of computers with this code, maybe using a Trojan, maybe using a phishing scam, but through whatever means, this piece of code that the hacker has written will end up on many, many computers. At some point, the hacker who controls something called the master bot. And by the way, the computers that the hacker has infected, they're called zombie computers. I did say it got a bit American Werewolfy in London. So you've got the zombie computers, these thousands of computers that have got this malicious code that the hackers created. They've all got it on there, but it sits there dormant until the hacker activates it. When the hacker activates it, zombie computers bombard a website with information or with requests for data. And in the end, the website actually can't cope with the volume of data that it's being bombarded with. And what happens is that it crashes. Oddly enough, in computer language, it's called falling over, which sounds a bit sort of a bit of a strange way of putting it. But once you've knocked a website or a server over, it becomes much more vulnerable. Have you ever seen a website when it's been hacked and you can see literally just the file directory? So it means they can just get in and steal things more easily. So for criminals, it's perfect because you can steal data. On the other, another reason it could be used is to take a business offline. There was a time when, and I suppose going back a decade or so, that it seemed as though every sort of Christmas and every sort of holiday period, either Sony or Xbox were going offline. And there were a lot of rumours circulating that they were both paying various nefarious people to knock each other offline, paying various hackers to do it. That was the rumour anyway. So you can see how it would be really bad for their business if on the, I don't know, if on a, I mean, take for example Christmas, when people are trying to download games they've been bought online. If you can't get onto the website, it makes the company look bad. Helps them, it ensures they lose money. So that's DDoS. Hope that makes sense. DDoS attack's quite complicated, but you do need to understand the anatomy of a DDoS attack. Social engineering, much easier. You know this. This is basically tricking people. And shoulder surfing is an example of social engineering. And this one's the simplest, which is you stand behind someone and you watch them entering a password into a terminal or into a cash machine, and then you use that data to steal their money. It's quite simple, isn't it, really? So again, unauthorized access. Notice how much that's turning up. So that's your shoulder surfing, literally looking over someone's shoulder to copy whatever it is they're typing in. Okay, so that's the shoulder surfing part. Now let's look at man-in-the-middle attack. I'm pleased I didn't do any quizzing because this is taking quite a while, but we are over halfway through. A man-in-the-middle attack. So this is basically, if you think about point A over here, can you see point A just there? And you've got point B over here. And this one is sending something to this one, 2 nodes. And someone, where my glasses are, is just here, and they are trying to intercept data. I don't think my hand signals worked at all well there. But the point is, something being sent from point A to point B, someone gets between those points and tries to intercept the data. Now, that is done using a method called packet sniffing. And we know that data is sent across networks in small packets. And so if you are a hacker, it's fairly easy to get hold of packet sniffing software. So you can actually watch data traveling across the ether, okay? So the hacker accesses the communication path. And why do you do it? In order to steal sensitive information. And it's known as the man-in-the-middle attack or data interception. Now, for all of these, next time we'll look at how you can prevent these happening. But at the same time, think about these 3 things for this particular part of the course. You've got, number 1, the threat, what it is. In this case, data interception. Number 2, think about the motive. Why is someone doing it? They want to steal sensitive data in order to make money, or in order to blackmail people, or in order to give them an advantage commercially. And then lastly, how do you prevent that attack from happening, or limit that attack from creating too much havoc? Okay, and we'll do that part next week. SQL injection. This is the other tricky one, a little bit tricky anyway. SQL, by the way, stands for Structured Query Language. A query is a database question. So say, for example, if you work in a shop, you might have a query set up for say if you worked in a music shop, like HMV, for example, and someone comes in and says, what's number 1 this week? And you could run a query, like a question, to ask the database what's the best-selling single or the best-selling film. Okay, so that's what a query is. Now, SQL, Structured Query Language, is a language used to write database queries. Okay, because databases, you might think, well, why are databases a big deal? And the answer is because they are used for nearly everything. All of your data at school, a database. Everything on Netflix, a database. Everything that you access via the internet that you buy, all of Nike stuff on their website, it's on a database. So databases kind of sit underneath pretty much a huge amount of what you're doing online. So if you can get into a database, it gives you enormous power and the potential to steal sensitive data and to make money from it and to sell it on. So an SQL injection works like this. When you when you go into a when you go into an account and you've got a username and a password that you put in. So if you wanted to use an SQL injection, you put in a username, and then in the password section you put in your password plus some SQL code. And the idea is that when you press enter, that the SQL code will then be recognized as though you are a user with a higher level of access, and you'll be able to gain access to more users' data. And without going on about it too much, it's quite clear that, say for example, I've got access to my bank account details, but I've only got access to my bank account details. But using an SQL injection, you may be able to gain access to other people's bank account details. Well, that's pretty good work if you can get it, and it's a fairly efficient way to make money until you get caught. So that is the SQL injection, structured query language. I think that's probably the most challenging one. Pharming with a PH, and this is when you change the IP address, the Internet Protocol address stored in DNS. Now, DNS we did last time, okay, and DNS is the system that actually stores the addresses of web pages. So you type in a like bbc.co.uk, but that's actually a number. It's actually a series of numbers which is separated by a full stop, and that's what IP addresses look like. We've got them as being letters because they're much easier to read. So it's someone who tries to go and change the address on a DNS server so that when you think you're going to NatWest to look at your bank account, you're actually being taken to a fake account that when you log into it, it steals your username and password, and then means that they can go and access your bank, for example. They always want to get into your banks or your credit card details so they can buy stuff. All right, so where are we? 52. Yeah, this was quite a lot. Social engineering is this idea of humans as the weak point. Ooh, the only thing in there that is important is this phishing. You've seen phishing scams? Phishing scams can go from being very obviously blunderously stupid, where a Nigerian prince only wants you to send him your passport details so he can release the £5 billion waiting in a bank account for you because you've been selected because you are such an honest person. You look at it and go, no. Or the ones that can be quite complex, where they've actually taken a lot of care to produce an email that looks an awful lot like it came from your bank, and it's quite believable, no spelling mistakes. It looks like the real thing, and it says click here to gain access to your bank account. You know, this amount has left your account. Click here to confirm that this that you made this purchase. You do that, you put in your details, and of course they gain access to it and steal it. So that's phishing for you with a PH. Okay, I think, brute force attacks. There is more. Brute force attacks is when a criminal tries to break in to your account by using trial and error. And the way this works, they actually use a version of an online dictionary, and that's why they say don't use normal English words, dictionary words for your passwords, because of course a simple app that's got an online dictionary will use an online dictionary in combinations of numbers and letters to try to break into your account. Can try thousands, tens of thousands of combinations in a matter of seconds. So if you've used password 123 for your account, that'll guess it really quickly. So that's why they bully you into doing ridiculously long passwords with special characters and a combination of upper and lowercase and all the rest of it. It's to prevent against brute force attacks. All right, so brute force attacks done and dusted. I've done DDoS. I'm not going to do DDoS again. I'll be going through this in class, by the way, but data interception in theft, that we've done as well. And SQL injections, we've done that one. Yay, quiz time, 5 minutes to go, you see? Brilliant. We're almost there. Finally, audience participation time. What is an alternative name for malicious code? What do we think? What do we think it could be? What is an alternative name for malicious code? Oh, Aditya's coming with B. Oh, look at that. You can have a bicycle horn. Let's have a look. We've got Aditya who's coming with B. We have got, oh, this is so fast. We've got Hash Brown with a B. We've got Sergen with a B. We've got Flynn with a B. We've got Bogdan with a B. We've got Henry. How are you, dear boy? Good to see you. We've got Chris with a B. Hello, Chris. We've got Swift with a B. We've got Emad with a B. You guys, I shall give you something fantastic. How about a glockenspiel? And it's Matthew. It's a big build-up. Hello, Matthew. Great to see you. It is indeed B. So that is the first thing, malware. I'm sure my fabulously interesting French story was the one that sealed the deal there, unless you knew it anyway. So malware. What about this one? What does SQL stand for? And just a few minutes ago, is it sequence query language? Is it structured question language? Or is it structured query language? What do we think? Oh, they're coming up much quicker here. I can see that we have got Aditya who said C. We've got Hash Brown with C. We've got Sergen with C. We've got Henry with C. We've got Emad with C. You are all worth one of those, and potentially... Ooh, we've also got Chris coming with C. It's all good. Guys, you're absolutely spot on. It certainly is C. That is outstanding. Matthew, C. That is good. Okay, SQL. We're getting there. 56, 4 minutes to go. I will not go over. This one, easy to forget. Viruses rely on a... What do they rely on? Can you remember this is a key difference between viruses and... What was the other one? Ooh, it is A. I'm going to... Yes, it is A. Aditya, that is outstanding. You should have an air horn for that. And we've got Hash Brown. Hello, Hash Brown with an A. We've got Sergen with A. We've got Emad with A. We've got Swift with A. You are all outstanding. That is absolutely correct. We've got Chris with A. Looks a bit like me. Oh, that's what's his face from the Minions thingy, isn't it? What's his name? It's Steve Carell, isn't it? That's the voice, I think. Right. Okay. So that's outstanding. Host. Yeah, they require a host program. Other one was, of course, we looked at viruses. And we looked at worms, which don't require... Oh, GRU! Yes, GRU it is. Well done. GRU, yes, GRU. GRU. Yeah, excellent. Although minions are quite annoying. DDoS attack is designed to bring down the government, a server, a non-networked computer. If you do choose C for this, you deserve to be taken outside and... let's not go there. It is B. Aditya, you are spot on. Hash Brown, absolutely spot on. It is B. And Henry is B. Good man. Well done. Let me play an appropriately patronising sound for you there. B, 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 B. You're all good. All right, guys, let's push on. Who was that? Chris is with B as well. Yes, good man. Emad with B. Right. Where's my next question? 2 minutes. Almost there. Okay, brute force attacks involve trying to find the back door to a program, trying to access a system via phishing, trying to guess a password. And yes, Flynn, you were spot on with B there as well. What do we think it is? Oh, Aditya. Aditya is fast on these. Aditya C, Emad C, Sergen C, Hash Brown C. That is all good. Bogdan C, yes, good man. Ooh, I think this time we deserve I think the boxing gloves again. That's quite annoying. Chris with C, Bogdan C, Swift with C. Yeah, outstanding. Exactly what it is. 59. So let's move on. In DDoS attack, many thousands of nodes may be infected by malware prior to the main attack. I'm going to harass you. By the way, Flynn, that was correct. Which of these is it? DDoS, quite a tricky one, DDoS. So make sure you take a bit of time to go through it. Watch the video I've done. It's way more detailed than what I've had time to do. Yes, it is. Aditya, it is true. Hash Brown, it is true. Emad, it is true. That's exactly what it is. Thousands of nodes infected. Bogdan, Sergen, you've all absolutely nailed it. All right, can I get these last couple of ones done? Let's have a look. 37. I've got 3 more on here. That is true. Yeah, we are there. Look at that. A Trojan is a way of describing how the payload is delivered rather than the payload itself. You guys, by the way, that was correct, and that was correct. Is this true or false, the Trojan? Is a Trojan a way of describing how the payload is delivered rather than the payload itself? Is this true or is this a false statement? It is true. God. Either Aditya is super fast or he's got the fastest internet connection in the world. A. Yes, you're all absolutely right. It is. It's how the payload is delivered. So it's a means of delivering it. Yes, and yes. Good guys, well done. That's outstanding. All right. So we're there. It's 7 o'clock. So next time we are going to. So that was Emad, yes, and that was Flynn, yes. Listen, that was a lightning quick tour. Okay, we've covered about 3 weeks worth of work in 30 minutes. Those are all the threats, and then next week we'll look at how we can prevent or mitigate against them. Okay, I will send you the mind maps that I've got for this. Do watch those videos and take some notes because they are completely focused on just this topic. All right, guys, it's 7:01. I've gone over. I feel like I've let you down badly. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a lovely evening, and thanks for coming along. See you guys. Bye bye. Bye bye.